Welcome, everybody. This is Chris Janke, Health in the Real World, joined today with special guest Jeff Wickersham. Jeff is a repeat guest. Really happy to have him on again. Jeff, what's going on?
Chris, man, excited and pumped for the conversation today.
This is going to be great. We were just talking off air before I hit record. Dad life, man, it's crazy, and this is something that you do in your business. You're talking to people every day about this. Give a little background about what you're up to and how this conversation is going to maybe shape today.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially as a dad, I'm a dad of two boys. Jackson's 15, Carter's 13. As of recording this, I feel like it's our duty to pay it forward to that next generation, right? To give them those strategies, tactics, tools, equip them with maybe what we didn't have. And it's no fault of our parents, right? Back when I grew up, and I was born in 75, in the 80s, personal development, mindset, mental toughness, grit, resilience, they weren't buzzwords back then, right?
Yeah.
So, no fault of our parents, but learning on your journey, picking up things and then sharing it with your kiddos and equipping them. I feel like that's our duty as dads. And I see it in society everywhere. There's unfortunately a lot of dads not doing that, and they're just punting, right? They're like, I'm just too busy. I'm overwhelmed. They can't take care of themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And then what ends up happening is the trickle down effect is our kids learn from that, right? Our kids learn so much more from watching and absorbing rather than, what we tell them. So my mission is to help lead guide 1 million dads, elevate 2+ million kids by January 1st, 2053. That's my North Star. I'm not satisfied where society's headed: polarization, anger, hatred, obesity, overweight, anxiety, depression at all-time highs. How do we make a dent in that issue? I feel like we do it ourselves as dads. And then when we lead, the amazing thing is our families follow.
Yeah, this is so powerful. I've thought this for a while, that the role of dad is like the one that is kind of taken for granted, right? Whether it's on a family level or even society now. I don't think dads are necessarily not that I want to be like exalted or like worship, but the first word that came to mind was exalted. My dad's still around, which I feel very blessed. He just turned 80.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
I can't even tell you how many ways we disagree in how we see the world.
Mhm.
And this is what I tell my kids all the time, is like, that's my dad. Like, he's been there for 43 years for me, and maybe I want to do it differently, but that has zero bearing about the respect that I have for him, right? And I think that's where it'd be great if we got back to that as a society. What are some of like what are the walls you're pushing up against, or going around climbing over? Like, what are the biggest hurdles, whether that be within the dads themselves or maybe societal or family, or what do those hurdles look like for you?
Yeah, I would say three come top of mind as you ask that question. One is the worst four-letter word, I feel like, in the English language: busy.
Mm,
Like, dads say they're too busy to invest in themselves, to do the things that they know deep down, Chris, that they should be doing, right? Like working out, doing some meditation, connecting, being intentional with their families. It's the worst four-letter word in the English language. I feel like when you say you're busy, you just have zero control over your calendar. And you just,
yeah,
again, you want to punt. You just want to use that as a default. We hear it everywhere. It's pervasive in society. You ask 100 people, 99 will say busy.
right.
Maybe one will say productive, or, it's great, right? So that would be number one, is just breaking that. We all have the same 24 hours in the day,
Yeah.
but we're not intentional in our actions. We're not intentionally planting seeds of future growth in our kids day in and day out, right? That's one of the things I help the warrior dads do through my program, what I have been doing for the past 6-7 years with my boys. So that would be number one. Number two, ego. Ego gets
Mm,
involved, right? The male ego. No, I'm good, man. Like, I don't need a dad. Like, who you kidding? I got this all figured. Do you? Because I coach and I still don't have it all figured out, and I never
exactly.
will. Right. So put the ego aside. Stop BSing yourself. It's okay to ask for help. And hey, it could be just a little minor tweak here or there, but that might have a profound impact on your energy level
Yeah.
throughout your day. Well, when it has a profound impact on your energy level, who else does it impact? It impacts your family, your kids, your wives, right? Like, that's so important. So that would be number two. And then number three, people see things as a cost. It's an investment, right? A cost is something you pay for milk, you drink it, and it's done. Like investing in
Right.
yourself pays off for the rest of your lifetime. And I like to say it only takes one dad to change a family tree forever. Imagine getting strategies, tactics, tools to crush life personally and professionally, but then be able to share it with your kids. I mean, you were saying your kiddos, right? From like 11 to 4, imagine sharing that with them. They're going to have a 30-year head start on you. My boys ask me all the time, like, Dad, am I going to do the things you? I'm like, you guys are going to crush me. You got a 30-year head start from like stacking wins, doing these small, simple habits, the fundamentals that so many people don't do. I said, you're
Yeah.
going to crush me. So those would be the three things, right? Busy, ego gets in the way. And then, from a financial perspective, they think of the cost rather than the investment that can,
Right.
just pay you forward for the rest of your life.
Right. And those investments, it's so interesting how many people are so willing to invest in other things other than themselves. But my whole thing is if you're rich and you're not in shape, something's wrong. And you invested in something outside of you before yourself. I would also add, as you were talking, I was thinking about connection, right? I
Mm.
think a lot of men, I think this is something women do in general much better than men
Yes.
is reaching out for help, connecting, uh, building each other up, lifting each other up. Same thing as you. I'm a child of the '80s, and it was the thing back then to uh, you know tease each other and make fun of each other. And my kids are starting with the mama jokes, and I said, you
Mhm.
know what? We're not doing mama jokes. I don't like mama jokes. Think about what that does. And we all know, it's not true. I'm not really talking about your mom, but it's also, my oldest is 11.
Mhm.
So, and then the youngest, and what is that telling them? What is that teaching them? And so instead of the mama jokes, they do pickup lines. So, did it hurt when you fell out of heaven?
Right,
Those,
right.
I said, if you guys want to be funny, do the funny, cheesy pickup lines. Those are much better than the mama jokes, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely connection. So actually, can we go down this path of connection? What do you
Yeah.
see as like an antidote for men, and like how do we connect as men in not the same way as women, but how do we become as good as our wives, as our girlfriends at connecting?
Yeah, so I'll piggyback off what you said, just the kids with the mama jokes and connecting. Like one of our family lines and our mantra or creed is Wickersham's love and support each other,
Mm,
right? Like we need to be our biggest cheerleaders as a family, as connected unit, because life's hard. And I grew up where, guys would just bust each other's balls and, cut each other. What is that really doing for it?
right.
It's again goes to the ego. Like I'm going to ego up. I'm going to cut you down. So I feel better about cheer each other on, right? We're all going through this human journey together. So I second what you're saying there related to that. So deeper connection. We got to talk about real stuff, not the ball game, not what the kids are doing. Like, what are we going through?
Right.
Right. Whether it's, I haven't had a drink now of alcohol and it'll be 2 years at the end of this year. Right.
Yeah.
Like talking about how that's impacting me, or maybe, how porn has impacted my relationship with my wife and been an issue for a long time. And we all have challenges and struggles we're going through. But yet again, that male ego gets it. No, I'm good. Right. Now I'm
Yeah.
sitting in the cave. I'm good. Nope. I say, I could tee up a golf ball here outside my house. And I'm not a good golfer by any stretch of the imagination, but I could hit a drive and I probably hit 5 houses in my neighborhood of dads going through the same thing and the same thought. So
Mm,
having real conversations that, I don't have it all figured out, but you know what? I'm doing things and I'm operating at a high energy level. We should probably connect. And when we connect, and some of the dads are like, what the heck? I need to be a part of this. Right. And it's chasing the best version of us and a best version of ourselves rather than just settling for average, mediocre, and the status quo of what
yeah.
society tells us to be. And that's having a real deep conversation and being able to connect. And I had a conversation with a dad that I actually coached basketball with years ago, and he lives locally, and we went out for a walk run, and I was pumping him up. I was talking about this warrior dad experience, and he started tearing up on the walk portion. And he kind of turned away from me, and I asked him, I said, "What's going on?" He said, "This is the first time I've had hope in 2 years."
Mm,
And I
wow.
said, That's what it's about, brother. And I'm tearing up right now talking about it. Like, we're all fighting this battle. Every
Yeah,
single one of us. That's the human journey. So being able to be real, be raw, be vulnerable, that's where we can connect at a deeper level. And hey, so many people are willing to help. And when you can have like we do through the Warrior Dad Experience, a room where we're sharing vulnerable things and we're saying we don't have it figured out, but we're supporting each other. Think about that versus the polar opposite of like the locker room mentality of like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you looking?
yeah,
It's totally different, and it's so refreshing and so needed.
it's great, man. What do you tell someone who's listening to this, who every male in their life is non-supportive? Their dad, their brothers, their friends. How do they reach out?
Yeah, it's gonna take some courage, but you got to reach out to somebody outside of that circle, right? And you will find a tribe, and that's what one of the most amazing things about creating the Warrior Dad Experience and having classes go through. I mean, you build bonds of brotherhood, and I've got them sprinkled around in, Italy and Poland and Washington and Texas, and we have one common thread. We're dads, and then the other fast follow is we want the best for ourselves, but also our kids and our families.
Yeah,
Search out those type of people, right? And when you have the courage to say, hey, I'm doing something different, you'll be amazed that all of a sudden you'll get a DM from somebody that says, hey, I'm doing that same thing. Thank you for the courage. When a couple of years ago, when I said I'm giving up alcohol, I had people reach out to me, send me messages on socials or a text and say, hey, I'm doing the same thing. I haven't told anybody because I don't want to be the outlier, but
right.
thanks for showing up. So if you don't have a circle, or if you don't have anybody in your circle that is that positive force, you got to search them out and
Yeah,
you got to find them. They are out there. Just know that, and just have the courage, because a lot of people will be, including myself, be willing to have a conversation, 30-minute conversation. And like I said, one dad can change a family tree forever. One 30-minute conversation could change your life forever.
100%. I would say this too, as you're talking about reaching out. I've noticed this with social media, right? You're talking about how polarized we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought that social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, wherever you're typing, right? I almost liken it to passing notes in class. Remember those days, right? You
Yep.
pass notes.
Yep.
Oh, hey, who do you like?
Right.
But it is almost like passing notes in class. They're quick. They're out of context. You can say whatever you want with very little to no repercussions. And I always thought that this right here, you and me talking right here, is the best social media. I think it's the best version because it's like the closest to human interaction that we could get without being in the same room. So starting a podcast for me was very valuable because it was I started, I think, right before the pandemic.
Okay.
And I was able to still have these conversations with people through the whole thing. So I don't even know Jeff, where are you located?
Outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
There we go. Are you an Eagles fan? Sorry.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, if you would have said that, I would have said yes, but I am. And we're going
Sorry,
through
but I'm in
a
San
couple
Francisco, but
challenges.
we're 3,000 miles away.
There you go. Yeah. And I would agree with you, Chris. Like, I'll have dads who reach out through a DM or a message I send to them, and they say, send me details. And I say, I'm old school. Like, number one, I don't work with anybody I don't like.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
let's have a Zoom and let's connect, because that's
Yeah.
needed, right? You can see facial expressions, you can see the nonverbal communication. And how incredible is it that you're 3,000 miles away and here we're speaking? I mean, I've had conversations with dads all across the world. I mean, what a gift that is from a technology perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, I brought up the Eagles and the Niners. We had that big game the other week. You guys beat us last year. We beat you a couple weeks ago. That's how I got into this business, actually, was sports.
Okay.
And I always loved practices, because my thing is, what warms my heart are two things, like the national anthem at the beginning of the game and all the guys hugging at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love it's the sentiment of knowing, like, hey, we're going to go to battle for like 3 hours. It's a game though, and it's all for fun. And then at the end, we're all friends. And so I think sports is also a good kind of avenue in that way. And I hope I haven't been coaching. I know you mentioned you're coaching. I hope it's changing. I'm sure it is. The locker room talk. There's definitely like the chance for people to become isolated on their own team with that locker room talk. So I don't know if I necessarily even have a question here, just kind of started thinking about this and the positivity of sports and that potential to really bring people together, right?
Yeah, I
As
mean,
a
there's
team.
nothing like it. I mean, I relate families to a sports team, right?
Yeah.
And as dads, as having the warrior dad mentality, leading the warrior dad movement, like I'm the tip of the spear for my family. And to your point earlier, Chris, you mentioned like dads kind of they maybe are an afterthought or they're not talked about enough. Dad, you are the tip of the spear for your family. Your family will lead when you take the initiative. And
Yeah.
I'll be quite vulnerable. My family did this year. Like we sat and wrote down our goals, our missions on January 1st last year because I wanted to get my sons involved. I wanted to get my wife involved. And by intentionally pouring into the dads that I coach, what has that done? That's up leveled my dad game. Like last Friday, all four of us, my wife and two teenage sons, were at the YMCA at 5:15 in the morning on a Friday before school, all working out. Why?
Dang.
I set the tone. You guys want to
That's
go? Yes. All the boys are
that's
going with
great.
me. My wife says, hey, I kind of feel left out. Well, come on, let's go. Let's get to the gym. We all go. We all feel good. You set the tone and they will follow. So this thought of you being irrelevant, there's nothing further from the truth. There was a story, I forget where I heard it, but there was a herd of elephants in Africa and they were rampaging all these villages and they couldn't figure out why. Well, scientists or two studied the herd and said it was only females and babies. They dropped two male elephants into the herd stopped rampaging the villages. So like that kind of human nature, that kind of has me thinking a little bit differently. So I wanted to bend your mind a little bit around that thought.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, we definitely need each other, and I'm sure if they did a study in the opposite way too, if it was just an all male herd, I'm
Yep.
sure, you know, problems there too. We definitely need each other, and we need to respect each other's differences. We're very different.
Mhm.
The dad and the mom have very different roles, and it's going to change for different families too, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I love this message of getting the dad to be the spear. We are the spear regardless, right? It's just
Mhm.
a sharp or a dull spear, but um, you're leading by example too. You
That
can't just tell your kids to go to the YMCA at 5 in the morning. You got to do it too, right?
I mean, I've been doing that, Chris, back since when they were like 2 and 3 years old, back when I was a heavy CrossFitter. Like
Yeah.
they knew I was getting up, they knew I was doing those things. I mean, I brought them to the CrossFit gym, right? They've been exercising all their life. I mean, they see me doing these crazy Goggins challenge or, the challenge I did in July. I created my own challenge where I ran a full marathon, 1,300 pull-ups, 1,950 sit-ups, and
Dang.
2,600 push-ups in 26 and a half or 16 and a half hours. They watch me do it. What does that inspire them to do? To be the best version of themselves. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's so powerful when we can lead and be that captain of our family, just like a captain of a sports team.
Yeah. That's awesome. A couple years ago, I was getting a little frustrated at my son was kind of starting sort of the preteen years,
Okay.
and a lot of boys they'll gain a little weight before they shoot up, right?
Mhm.
And he didn't want to exercise, and exercise is such a big part of my life. I didn't struggle with this for very long, but it was a week or two where I'm like, man, I really want him to, and I'd be like, come on, let's go work out. And he just didn't want to.
Mhm.
And finally, I just gave up. And I said, he's going to do it if and when he's ready. And just probably like 3, 4 months ago, he's really been getting into it. Like, Daddy,
Mhm.
what does this muscle do? And what is that? And how
Mhm.
often should I work out? And he's asking me these questions. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. Just leaving him that space and that opening to when he's ready, start to pursue. And I realized, he's probably starting to have some crushes, and
Yep.
he wants to look good, feel good, and that comes naturally as he's in 6th grade now. So it's an interesting time, though, very big transition to from boy to man. So
Yep.
yeah, asking me questions like, oh, when you were a kid, did this happen? And this is it's a fun time.
Yeah. Sharing the journey and giving them a little bit of space. And when they come to you, like my oldest, hey, I'm kind of in a rut. All right, tomorrow, 7 a.m. I remember him coming to me on a Friday saying that. I said, all right, 7 a.m. tomorrow, we're lifting at the gym. We're going to come back, recharge. We're going for a run at 11 a.m. We're going to do a 4-mile run. Well, it's raining. Yeah, we're going to do hard things.
Yeah.
And we went lifted. Then we went for a run in the rain. God, I mean, it's an awesome opportunity if you go for runs with your kiddos, because you get time all away from phones and you're just talking. We did it, I said, because that's the uncommon path. How many people are going to be out on that, trail when it's going to be raining or raining soon? And there was one family, and Chris, we came back. We were like the last 3/4 of a mile left, and we passed the family that we had passed originally, and it was pouring. And I gave them some energy. They gave something back. I yelled "boo-hoo," and they yelled back. And my oldest took off. It was like an energy burst, and we got in the truck.
Oh, that's awesome.
He says, Dad, their energy just like sped me on. I said, that's the power, positive energy. He said, and I feel fantastic. And I said, yeah, because we got out in nature and we were doing something physically. I mean, it is so incredibly powerful when we can connect that way with our kiddos. And it's a gift that'll pay off for them for their entire lifetime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your program. When somebody comes to you, you said you meet them on Zoom, you have that face-to-face. I know everyone will be a little bit different, but what is kind of like a typical step-by-step? What does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, on a daily basis, I'd like to say, give me 1% of your day, 14 minutes, 24 seconds in the morning. You stack 7 wins real quick when you wake up. You have tremendous momentum, tremendous progress, right? Like I tell people, 75 hard is great if you're at a certain level. It's the absolute worst thing you could do if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
Because you're going from a seated position to an all-out sprint, right? Let's crawl before we walk before we run. So we dial in the bookends. What do you do at night? What do you do in the morning? You dial those in, you get amazing control. You get a great night's sleep, which it's just so vital for our bodies and our minds mentally. You dial those things in, you have some semblance of control. So these small, simple, almost laughable things that we do get you an amazing foundation to operate from. And then I mix accountability, and you're checking in that you got your work done, right? There's zero accountability or very little accountability out there as adults, especially as dads and men.
Yeah.
You check in. All of a sudden, you're a part of a team that's checking in, a class. It raises your game. You don't want to be that guy that doesn't check in on a daily basis. So dialing in the bookends is huge. That's where we start. And then just to give you another flavor, then we dial in who we are. What's your identity? What's your identity and energy, work, love, those 3 categories? From a love perspective, I'm dad and husband of the year. That drives so much of my actions. So Chris, the formula we've gotten wrong, and this was kind of programmed in us when we were kids. We had the sniffles, and what did our mom or dad say? Oh, how do you feel? I don't feel really good, mom or dad. Okay, go sit on the couch, stay home from school. Now that's probably warranted then, but what did that reinforce in our mind? Well, we should take action upon our feelings. Not the case. Our feelings betray us all day long. They keep us stuck and in a rut. So I love to flip that kind of process of feelings, lack of action, and then our identity erodes. Identity first. Who do you want to show up as today? And based upon that identity, then you take action. I don't give a shit how you feel.
Right.
Take action about it, and then you start feeling good, even if you weren't 100%, even if you were 50% when you wake up. Those are the days when you don't feel like it that truly matter, because those are the days the common, the average, the mediocre person doesn't do what they need to do. So dialing in the bookends is huge. And then having the dads define who they are. What's their identity? You ask 100 people, 90 of them won't know who the heck they are. They know who they don't want to be,
right?
But they haven't defined who they are. So those are just 2 components of what we do in the experience. But the accountability, the camaraderie, the group coaching call I give once a week, man, we dive into these things, we unpack them, we implement them, we take action. And that's where they see the life-changing and generational changing results that have been so impactful.
Yeah. I love what you say. It only takes one man, one dad to change a family tree.
We discount our impact all the time. Like imagine smiling at somebody that might be have a thought in their mind that they're going to go take their own life, but you held the door and you smiled to them and they said good morning and it changed their, like, that's how we need to think more often than not, because it's empowering. It gives us the ability to reach other people, and we absolutely can. And too many of us stay in our cocoon. We stay tethered to our phones. We are so self-absorbed that we can have an impact on others like no other. And as dads, for our families, you absolutely can change your family tree forever. I'm doing it, and the dads that have jumped into the experience are doing it too.
Absolutely. All right, Jeff, final thoughts. What do you want to leave the audience with? Your inspirational message, call to action, whatever direction you want to go, and then give us an idea of how we can learn more about the Warrior Dad.
This one's been resonating with me because my boys are 15 and 13, but I read these statistics probably about 6 months ago. I had posted out something on social that kind of went a little viral. It was a picture of me and my son, youngest son, overlooking an empty football field. And I had my arm around him. I was his coach. He had his jersey on, and we were looking at the empty field. It was the last time I coached him on the football field. And I heard these statistics that by age 12, 75% of the time you spend with your child or children is gone. By age 18, 95% of the time you spend with your child or children are gone. So when you think about, I got to do work email, or I got to do this, or you're on your phone, there is going to come a point in time you're not going to have those opportunities anymore. Right. And with 15 and 13, I'm on that other side of the mountain. Dude, I pour into my boys every darn day because I have limited opportunities left. So I just wanted to call those numbers out for some dad that might say, this guy's full of, like, think about the time you get with your kids. You've got to be intentional. That's so important, right? Today's a gift we will never get again. How do you choose to use it, right? Choose to use it wisely, right? That's so important. So that's the kind of thought nugget I want to, idea that I want to send with everybody, where they can find me. I'm out at www.thewarriordad.com. Got the Warrior Dad podcast out there as well if you want to check that out. But drop me a line. Let's connect.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, Jeff, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on the show today and reconnecting. This is a great conversation. And see you again soon, hopefully.
Thanks, Chris.